Next up, we will have a presentation by Michael Bissett. He's the Executive Director of the Sutter Buttes Flood Control Agency, and Mr. Bissett is on our left. Hello, Michael.
Is this on? Oh, it's on. All right, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Michael Bissett, Executive Director for Sutter Buttes Flood Control Agency. Tonight, we have the annual presentation. We typically every year we go out to our members of our flood control agency and provide an update on our activities and answer any questions. We unfortunately were not able to do it last year. As you know, we had the worldwide pandemic, so I'm very happy to be back, and it's great to see people in the audience, so it's a welcome change. So thank you for having me tonight. Is this the changer? Great. So tonight, the overview of my presentation, I'm quickly going to go over the Sacramento River Flood Control System itself, talk about the Feather River system and the Sacramento, and really just get into the background of Sutter Buttes Flood Control Agency, when we were formed, why we were formed, and what our program is all about, and the update on our program activities. So this picture, this map shows pretty much the Central Valley, and you can see the Sutter Buttes up in the top left, and that's the basin that we are protecting. The Sutter Buttes Flood Control Agency basin is right there. What we like to highlight on this map is you can see all the water throughout the system in the Central Valley. There's a lot of other flood control agencies, cities, levee districts. Everyone is out there trying to improve their system. So we're competing with those agencies for limited state dollars, federal dollars, local dollars, so that we can improve our system. This picture right here is a Fresno scraper. Pioneer farmers utilizing this type of equipment to build the levees back in the day. And that was the state of the art back then. And as you can tell, there's new standards out there now. And Sutter Buttes Flood Control Agency had to go in and improve pretty much 45 miles of levees along the Feather River. What I'd like to point out on this slide is pretty much the last bullet here and all the little sub-bullets. This is the history. These are the milestone events that drew all of the members to form Sutter Buttes Flood Control Agency. So the Paterno decision back in 2003, that was a result of the 1997 floods. And that decision ruled against the state and found the state liable for the flooding. And it caused over $1 billion in damages that the state had to pay out. And that's what really, that was an eye-opening event, that there's a lot of work that needed to be done throughout the Central Valley, and the levees weren't as good as everybody thought back in that time frame. Hurricane Katrina in 2005, that's what brought in the federal government, FEMA. When that happened, they came in throughout the Central Valley and started mapping everybody into the floodplain. I was working for City of West Sacramento at the time, and the city thought we had well over 200-year flood protection, and we were going to get mapped into the floodplain. So it was a big battle, and that happened everywhere throughout the Central Valley. So the state passed, or the voters passed in 2007, bonds 1E and 84. So that provided a lot of money for state of California to utilize to help fund the improvements to the levee system throughout the Central Valley. Senate Bill 5 was also passed in 2007, and what that did was it put restrictions on cities, land use agencies, to limit the amount of issuing of building permits, or actually the ability to issue building permits if you did not have flood protection in place, essentially 200-year flood protection, or you were striving towards that goal and you had a meaningful way to get there. The Central Valley Flood Protection Plan was first passed in 2012. That was the state's plan. So when Paterno decision happened, the state was found liable. The lawyers, or the court, found that the state didn't have a plan in place. They didn't have that plan to improve the system, and that was one of the major key elements to find them liable for that event. So the state came up with this plan and developed it in 2012, and they have to update that plan every 5 years. Sutter Buttes Flood Control Agency participates in that plan update, so to ensure that our projects are in that plan and will be funded in the future. So here is our basin highlighted in the color. So the top 2/3 in the yellow color, that's the area where we're striving to achieve 200-year flood protection. So that'll protect the urban areas within the basin. In the lower 1/3, the tan color, that's our goal is to achieve 100-year protection in that area. Sutter Butte Flood Control Agency was formed in 2007 by our members, the 4 cities, Yuba City, Live Oak, Biggs and Gridley, Butte County, Sutter County, and Levee District 1 and Levee District 9. All of those entities came together to form a joint powers agency to focus on developing and delivering flood protection to the region. In 2010, the voters here within our basin passed a Prop 218 assessment district, and that provided the local funding for Sutter Butte Flood Control Agency to utilize to partner with the state and the federal government to bring in additional dollars and to really leverage the local dollars 2, 3, 4 times as much to bring in those additional dollars to improve our system. Once again, our goal, 200-year flood protection in the north and 100-year flood protection in the south. And I'm pleased to say that we will be delivering to the Sabufka board later this year our 200-year certification document. It's a major milestone for our agency and for the community, so we're very excited about that. And that's coming probably in September, October of this year. So here's the program approach. So Sutter Butte Flood Control Agency taking the lead on delivering flood protection projects throughout the region, partnering with the state of California and the Army Corps. So there was a dual front going on. So we were building projects while at the same time working with the Army Corps to go through the federal process to achieve congressional authorization and appropriations for our program. And the Corps finally caught up to us back in 2019, and I'll talk about that a little bit, but they started building some levee improvements and they just finished up last year. Sabufka developed a strategic plan in 2016 to guide our efforts and what work we needed to deliver. We updated that plan in 2018, and we'll be looking to provide a new update later this year, working through the Sabufka board on the projects that we want to achieve. The org chart is, I know you probably can't read it, but essentially I have a board of 13 members. There's myself as the executive director. I have an administrative analyst. So there's really just 2 of us who are employees of the agency, and then we have consultants, and we can ramp up and ramp down depending on the work, and it's a really fiscally prudent way of managing our business. So here's the list of projects. These are the major projects that we've been working on. The Feather River West Levee project is the main project. So that's the work all the way from Thermalito Afterbay in the north, all the way down to essentially Laurel Avenue in the south. And that project is mostly complete. And like I said, we'll be delivering the 200-year certification very soon. Oroville Wildlife area, that's the little purple area up near Thermalito Afterbay. That was a key component of our program to bring in additional state dollars. We had to compete with other agencies for those limited dollars, and the state had requirements about delivering multi-benefit projects. Our levee improvement project was basically just an in-place levee repair project. It didn't have a lot of environmental enhancements or ecosystem benefits, but we were able to incorporate this Oroville Wildlife Area project, which hit all of those buttons and allowed us to qualify for additional state dollars. Back in 2017, when the Oroville spillway situation happened and everybody got evacuated here in the basin, that triggered a lot of key elements that rolled out. It was, obviously it was a major negative for the area, but we were able to turn it into a positive in multiple ways because it triggered additional state funding to do additional levee improvements. It brought in federal funding for disaster relief and repairs, which resulted in approximately 2 miles of levee improvements at the southern end of the basin that we didn't have funding for and we didn't have a funding partner for. So that triggered that. And then there was a lot of flood fighting in the area that showed that the work that we had done previously was sound, and the areas that we hadn't improved showed deficiencies. So it was a really good eye-opener event for ourselves and our state partners. So here's our cartoon character for what the cutoff wall construction looks like. Essentially, we would take down about 1/3 of the levee. We would construct these cutoff walls right through the center of the levee. They consist of soil and bentonite clay and water, and we would dig those down and tie those into clay layers. So it varied throughout the 40+ miles of levee improvements from about 45 feet deep up to about 140 feet deep. And I'll show you on the next slide the type of equipment we use to install those walls. But as you can see on the right, when the water level gets high, that pressure wants to force the water through and under the levee, and that was the major deficiency that we had. It wasn't a levee height issue, it was a geotechnical issue. That was the predominant deficiency that we had throughout our system. Top picture is the 1955 flood here in Yuba City. You can see the picture on the top is 55, and then in 2010, the same area. You can see the amount of flooding that was in that location back in 1955, which was a major milestone event for our area. And we had board members on the Sabufka board who lived through that event and talk about it all the time. So here's the Feather River West Levee project. Design and construction cost approximately $331 million. So it's a huge civil engineering project. Sabufka cost shared in that about 24% overall, with the state picking up the remainder. We began designs in 2011. We initiated construction in 2013, and we were building levee improvements each and every year after that up until about 2019. We still had a couple of little areas that we had to complete. And since that time, we've been doing all the paperwork to close out that project, and we'll be delivering that later this year. So here's the equipment. So this is a long stick excavator on the left. So that piece of equipment can dig down approximately 95 feet deep. So if we have to go that deep, we can use this piece of equipment. If we have to go deeper, we have to use this piece of equipment. This is a deep soil mixing machine. We had 3 of these rigs out in 2013 when we first started the project, and they were working 24 hours a day, 6 days a week, taking Sundays off to perform maintenance on the machines. But essentially it was a 7-day operation because we started late based on when we got our permits, and we had a limited construction season in order to get that done. So it was a quick job in 2013, but then after that we rolled out full construction seasons. Here's the Oroville Wildlife area. I don't want to talk too much about this. I know I'm limited on time, but essentially we constructed a weir that when the Feather River raises, it spills into this entire area. We did a lot of channel clearing. We constructed a new permanent connection to the Feather River to allow for fish to migrate onto the floodplain when the river gets up to about a 5-year event stage, which was a big benefit for salmonids. And we got a lot of funding through California Department of Fish and Wildlife and the Wildlife Conservation Board. So basically this project was pretty much 100% grant funded with very little local dollars going into it, only for the flood stage reduction component of this project. This is the federal project. So like I said earlier, when the Army Corps finally caught up to us, they built that small 5-mile segment at the bottom of the slide, whereas we had constructed the remainder of those levee improvements for the past 5 to 6 years prior to when the Corps started their work. But the good news is all of our work is creditable, and we're working on getting credit through the Army Corps for the work that we advanced prior to when they received the congressional authorization. And one of the key items here is the Army Corps does not certify levees anymore. So they got out of that business after Katrina and when FEMA started remapping everybody. So now it's on the locals. So we're going to be certifying those 5 miles. My design team actually designed that project for the Corps, and we've been providing a little bit of oversight, but we're going to be doing all the record drawings and using that to certify those 5 miles and add it to our program. So this is my last slide. So this is the additional work that Sutter Butte Flood Control Agency is performing. So for the Feather River West Levee project, like I said, a lot of closeout work happening. It's all, delivering the operation manuals, finalizing cleanup contracts. We're still acquiring some key pieces of right-of-way. We're almost done there. And then we have some environmental mitigation that we're performing. And finally, on the encroachment permit side, all of the major pipes and encroachments that we modified, we have to go through the Central Valley Flood Protection Board to update those permits for those facilities, or if they didn't have permits, issue them new permits. So we're in that process right now, working hand in glove with the Central Valley Board. Like I said, 200-year certification to comply with SB 5, that's coming your way. So that's what the land use agencies such as City of Yuba City can utilize to continue issuing building permits and stimulating the economy. We're working on FEMA remapping. Right now we're close to finishing up the Butte County FEMA remapping, and we'll be starting the Sutter County map later this year, delivering that to FEMA next year, and then going through that process. It could be a 3 to 5 year process because it's a much more complicated map than Butte County's, but we're taking that on and we'll be starting that later this year. On our Small Communities Grant Program, we're focusing on the Sutter bypass. So now I've talked all about the Feather River West Levee project, pretty much 100% complete except for a very small portion just west of the Highway 99 bridge. That's the least of our concerns. We're very focused on the Sutter bypass right now. So we're working closely with state of California to try to get some money through the state to start initiating repairs to the Sutter bypass. And then lastly, what I wanted to point out tonight, as a result of the Oroville Dam spillway situation, all of that sediment that rolled down the Feather River resulted in a lot of boat ramps getting plugged up with sediment and then not being able to be utilized by the public. So we worked through the California Natural Resources Agency. They provided us a $5 million grant to go out there and do some cleanup in those boat ramps. That work is going to be starting very soon. So this month, you'll start seeing some equipment and near the Yuba City boat ramp and in the river, starting to clean out that area. And they'll be working all throughout the summer into the early fall. And we're going to be starting at the Live Oak boat ramp next month. So we have the same contractor who's doing both projects for us, which we're happy about. And we'll start seeing that work roll out very soon. And we're targeting July, you may want to mark your calendars, July 9th for the sort of a groundbreaking ceremony for the Yuba City sediment removal project. And Senator Nielsen and Assemblymember Gallagher want to be there, and we're going to have Sabufka board members there. And I'd love to see, the Yuba City Council, but I'll send out more information as it gets closer. But July 9th is what we're targeting. So with that said, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to turn it back to you to see if there's any questions from the board.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bissett. Before any comments, any questions? You have a question? Okay.
Thank you for that very concise presentation, Mr. Is it Bassett?
Bassett, yeah.
Bassett, thank you. I can talk about this kind of stuff all day long, but I'm not. I'll just keep this short. A question that I'm asked all the time. It seems whenever we have a high water event around here, 86, 97, 16, and we dodge a bullet, and that following spring, it seems like the question that I hear is, what's the possibility of dredging the rivers to the point where we're back to the channel level pre-hydraulic mining and the possibilities of doing something like that?
And I knew you were going to go there, or I thought you were going to go there with that question. Well, we're hoping that this project, that the sediment removal project, is going to start triggering that type of activity. Sediment removal, or the sediment within the river, is not the problem with our levee system, and it provides very little flood protection capability. If you look at the cross-section of the river versus where the levees are, it's a very minute area, cross-sectional area of hydraulic capacity where that sediment is. It's more of a recreational issue, navigational issue, But if we can start cleaning out more and more, and hopefully we see the resource agencies see that as a positive, mostly from an environmental standpoint, we may start getting more dollars. In fact, we've applied for additional money through CDFW to enhance our Yuba City sediment removal project.
So it's a possibility.
It is, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the council? All right, Mr. Bissett, thank you so much. The Sabufka and the city of Yuba City have a very long-standing relationship, and I think that at many times people don't recognize the scope and the magnitude of what you guys have accomplished over the years and the stuff that's going to continue to go on through your efforts. I also want to acknowledge, your willingness to sit with the vice mayor and myself on some fee issues as well, and a very thorough presentation, and you've made our community safer.
Well, thank you, thank you. And the city's been a real leader in this area, so thank you for that as well.
Through the mayor, I just want to thank you, Michael, for doing the presentation. I really like the fact that we're going to have the ceremony and open it up. I know this thing is really weird, huh? But thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. And I also want to acknowledge that we have another Sabuca member here, Mike Morris, with us, so that to acknowledge that your work is appreciated, and you keep us on our toes as board members, for sure.
Well, thank you. It's a real team effort, so I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right.